This comment is basically what happens when you have an idiot schizo babbling to themselves and then trying to convince themselves they know what the fuck they're talking about. Now, let me just say this before we continue. You might not like the fact that Steve made fun of foodie, but the fact is, eating salad is actually good for you. It's actually healthy for you. As opposed to being a whiny little douche who has the middle school mentality of just be this way because I don't understand what it is to be that way, even though you being that way is not harmful to anyone at all because you are a law abiding citizen who is acting within the rules and boundaries of the law with a consenting partner who's also a legal adult. But what was a little homophobia to sprinkle upon the hypocrisy cake that is Studi's career on the internet? Because, a guy that responds that way to someone simply saying he should eat healthier is the guy who you should listen to about being mature and civilized. Because apparently, someone simply saying that eating healthier would be better for him is the same thing as him blatantly making a homophobic statement by simply suggesting that someone date outside of their orientation, which would actually be detrimental and damaging to one's mental health, because they would make themselves feel like they have some sort of defect. They would basically be gaslighting themselves into feeling like there's something wrong with them because they wouldn't be attracted to the opposite sex. But this kind of behavior totally wasn't indicative of the same kind of pieces of shit that used to have real power and authority back in the 80s and 90s in our country, or maybe even previously to that. But remember, that was a very mature and intelligent way to handle someone simply suggesting that he eat a fucking salad. Although I imagine he'll be tossing plenty of it when he ends up in prison for fucking around with that Tracy chick. Codebreak, Sporty Doss, excuse me, you guys have basically become the same person to me now. Response to me, I comment, you and Damien have been running riot for the past 2 months, tormenting the AFL community. Excuse me, but how can I torment a community that don't even fucking exist? You're basically saying that because people have said unkind things about you, dipshit, and foodie, it somehow means that an entire community is being targeted by, two dudes? No. We're referring specifically to you, Code Boy, and Chud Boy, okay? Nobody gives a fuck about the rest of the people involved in this little community of video game players. Because let's be honest, these people have not said shit to us outside of the three of you. So I don't know why the fuck it is you're trying to pretend that an entire group of people is being targeted by two motherfuckers that basically just call you, Thudi, and Codebreaker a trio of degenerate dipshits with no lives, no futures, and no goals. Calling the three of you brain-dead chuds is not the same thing as saying everyone in your immediate vicinity or community of content creators is the same as the three of you, because they're not. Everyone else is an individual because I have not spoken to everyone in that community. I'm referring specifically to the three of you, and the fact that you're so fucking brain dead and cooked mentally that you don't get that is kind of sad, because it means the part of the brain responsible for thought doesn't actually generate enough energy between those completely fried neurons of yours that they just misfire randomly, so you can jump to levels and conclusions that only a schizophrenic would jump to. I mean, seriously, this is like the definition of schizo-babbling. When you start saying random bullshit and say everyone else in the room is saying things they're not saying and doing shit they're not doing, just so you can make an otherwise small issue a much larger one. Both of you are loudmouths with clear narcissistic traits, and honestly, you both suck. You let people like John have their say, but when it comes to the AFL community, you block all of us in the comments because you are too cowardly to admit you are in the wrong. Again, let me repeat it for the dipshit in the back that's apparently slower than fucking molasses on a cold day. The three of you are not a community. You are a very small subsect of a community. Keep in mind, your Lord and Savior, Choke Up Chudman, is actually kicked out of that community. He's been excommunicated by every one of his peers in that subgroup because they view him as a toxic little shit that going around looking for attention by harassing people who like different teams than his. So it's kind of hard to feel bad for someone that acts like that big of a dickhead to the point to where his own peers and contemporaries want him fucking gone. And here's the thing, John having his say years ago, if you're referring to Curtin, has nothing at all to do with you guys now. And John, as in UTF, having his say, has nothing to do with you either. No one's trying to stop you from speaking, dipshit. It's the fact that when you do say something, you contribute fuck all to the conversation. You don't have any rebuttals that are worth a fuck, because every rebuttal you have is basically just you throwing stones or throwing mud or pointing at other shit or deflecting so that people don't actually have the ability to directly criticize you or chode boy or could boy for their fucking behavior. Like, I don't want to hear shit about, you're a coward. No, you just don't say anything worthy of a conversation. You don't contribute shit to the conversation because all you do is try to deflect. When you bring up old bullshit to try to get under someone's skin, or when you don't actually address anyone's points or counter arguments to anything at all that you do, you're proving the point that you're not worth a conversation because you're not willing to address the fact that people bring up some concerns and points. Because you would rather not acknowledge the fact that your attempt at an argument means nothing, when the whole thing is basically meant to deflect from things people have said, because you want to be a whiny little shit. That's all it is. You're just looking for a reason to say that you win, even if it means you have to openly bullshit everyone in the room about the conditions of said battle, just so you can say that you came out on top. People like you are not that hard to read. You're a terminally online, mentally deficient genetic defect who only exists because your parents didn't have the presence of mind to drop kick you out of a window. I better be careful, guys, because if I'm not careful, if I'm too mean, if I don't treat this video like it's a hug box, then that means that he's gonna ring up the Australian government to cry about what I'm saying about him, even though I live in a different nation and therefore am not bound by Australia's laws, because the First Amendment protects my right to freedom of speech. Even if I'm saying things that are disagreeable or hurtful, I am permitted to say them because I live in a country that defends that fucking right, and I occupy a platform that allows me to say this, provided I'm not issuing threats, which I have not been. But the fact is this, if you're going to start saying that I'm hurting you mentally, or that I'm like verbally abusing you, or that I'm mentally abusing you for pointing out the fact that you're completely incapable of acknowledging the fact that you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about from one day to the next because you cannot even maintain a consistent memory of what happened last week or today, then maybe, just maybe, it's you who needs to evaluate your life choices and look at yourself, instead of constantly trying to look outward at the source of the problem, when the reality is the source of the problem has always been from within, i.e. you. Codebreaker has exposed you both for the kind of people you really are. That dumb motherfucker couldn't even expose himself if he walked in front of a playground, which we all believe is one of his closet fantasies. Shitty joke aside, he hasn't really exposed anyone for shit. He's basically just done his best to autistically dig into people's personal lives and histories in an attempt to get gotchas in hopes of chasing people off the internet on a rail about shit that's almost a decade old. The shit that he tried to use against me is literally shit I had nothing to do with, involving people in my family or people who I might be related to but have never met. Or, if you're referring to that old-ass video from like almost a decade ago, it was a pack of people who consistently defended their friend who was an admitted groomer, who basically had to scrub himself off the internet for 4 whole years because he ended up getting caught trying to groom a 15-year-old in his early 20s. Like, I don't want to hear shit about me being X kind of person when the motherfucker accusing me of shit back in that day was a confirmed fucking groomer who openly did shit like that to other people all the time because it was the best way for them to get attention on other people whenever there was scrutiny being applied to them about some of the shit they were doing on their personal Facebook during that time all those years ago. It was still a shitty thing of me to do involving that picture of Emery. I completely agree it was a piece of shit thing to do, but that does not define my character now. And the fact that you were that desperate for a gotcha that you gotta dig up the dead horse graveyard and try to swing dead horses at people in an attempt to get them to get fucking thrashed by strangers says a lot about you. It means that you're so fucking desperate and stupid that you have nothing to contribute to the conversation. You're not going to say anything of actual worth because all you're going to do is try to deflect and say anyone that's ever said something mean about someone or ever said anything at all distasteful about those that hurt your feelings are in the right because your personal bias is dictated to be so. You have no right to accuse anyone of being narcissistic when you demonstrate a lot of narcissistic tendencies yourself. And if you want to see a genuine narcissist, look no further than your Lord and Savior, Jacob Smalldick. The dude literally acts like he's compensating for having a shit personality by constantly trying to act like he's the top dog in everything he does. I'm not the best at everything I do. I'm decent at what things that I'm good at, but that does not mean I'm the best. I'm willing to humble myself with statements like this and mean it, as opposed to, well guys, today I'm going to talk about a sport no one gives two fucks about, and I'm going to bitch and cry about whether or not I'm liked by the people that would have normally respected me had I not been a harassing, toxic asshole to them at first. I mean, the dude literally threatened to kill someone over DMCA strikes, so I don't think that I'm particularly worse off than someone like that. Because out of all the mean shit I've said, I've never threatened someone over something that's stupid and minuscule. So please take a step back. Seriously, you constantly bitch and whine and complain about what other people do. Meanwhile, you're openly sucking the dick of someone who straight up tried to threaten to murder a teenager because they made him look stupid by hitting him with a DMCA. Let's keep reading this horse shit. Yes, I do not support the stalking involving a family member. I am completely against that. But on an individual level, you are both nothing more than trash who seem desperate to watch the world burn. Because people call you an idiot online? Have you ever considered the fact that the reason you get ridiculed so harshly is because you, Studi, and Codebreaker are a trio of dumb fuck morons who say stupid shit all the time without any consideration for how dumb you look? You call me stupid. You want to watch the world burn. No, you're just a blithering spaz that has no idea what the fuck he is saying. How is it my fault that the three of you are idiots? How is it Damien's fault or Steve's fault or anyone's fault that the three of you form a trifecta of brain-dead, damaged degeneracy who basically just exist to suck each other off in a circle while crying about all your inadequacies and problems and blaming it on the world around you? How is that any of our fault? You're basically just sitting there. You want to watch the world burn? As though that's a worthwhile contribution to the conversation. You say nothing worth listening to. Because you say shit like this unironically, where you freak out and because you make a dumbass of yourself, screeching about stupid shit, wanting other people to feel bad because you're an illiterate mong who has no idea what the fuck he is doing, but he wants to win a one retard crusade against a group of people because said group of people acknowledges that him and his brain-dead puppets are a pair of morons. Seriously. The fact that you are so brain-damaged makes me almost feel bad for you. Except I can't feel bad for someone who literally creates their own problems just so they can bitch and whine about shit not going their way. I cannot feel bad for a person who basically creates their own issue so they can complain about it or make it everyone else's problem that it even fucking exists. I cannot feel bad for a person who is so incredibly stupid and incapable of self-awareness that they will openly set themselves up for disappointment and anguish at a moment's notice, and they will continuously spin their wheels and make an idiot of themselves, screaming at people because they want to win an argument that wasn't even worth having in the first fucking place, because they kept letting their blind hero worship of a brain-dead chud from Australia become the main focus behind any of their involvement in social media. It's one thing to stick up for your friends. It's another thing, however, to stick up for your friends blindly when they do stupid and terrible shit constantly to try to appeal to an audience of people that is only consisting of like a single digit count, where the entire purpose of maintaining the audience is to take really bitchy half-ass swings at somebody before they turn around and hit you with a fucking Fat Man launcher from Fallout. It's really what it is. You and Sped do a great job in making a case study for why it is people like you should be barred from internet usage and placed into institutions to help you educate yourself and refine you. Because otherwise, you'll just keep doing shit like this. And I don't hear, well, you know this, yeah, but the difference is I have a relationship and a job, and I don't spend every waking hour that I exist screaming at people over random BS or drawing conclusions about shit that don't even need to be drawn by fictional ideas that have been cooked up inside my delusional little skull just so I can feel like I have a valid reason to re-hit people. 'Tis not my mentality that makes. You're literally just schizo babbling and saying that people are doing shit they're not doing and saying shit they never said, just so you can sit there and justify having an episode at everyone. I mean, remind me why it is someone like you, who is such a thin-skinned little bitch that the last time they had a problem with someone, they were crying about being mentally distressed, yet at the same time you insist to come right back to your glass house and throw stones. Sit the fuck down. Seriously, this is embarrassing for you. And the reason it's fucking embarrassing is because after this video's up, you're probably going to do what you did last time when you had an interaction with Damien, where you started crying like a fucking pussy because people were calling you a blithering fucking idiot. Of course you're going to be called a blithering idiot for saying dumb shit. And people are obviously going to think you're not mentally well when you're sitting there saying shit that Niece would fucking say. You know, Niece, crazy Bernice Morgan, the crazy fucking lol cow lady that was literally accusing everyone of stalking her whenever they'd tell her to stop tagging them and shit 30 times a day. That's what you sound like. That's what Chode Boy sounds like. And that's kind of like what Jake is starting to sound like. When you start autistically screeching about someone calling you a blunt without someone just calling you a babbling dipshit. I mean, out of all the stuff you do, this is one of the most cringe-inducing comments I've ever fucking read. I would rather see a schizophrenic going meow 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 with a tinfoil hat on shitting into a diaper. And that would be less cringe-inducing than seeing this fucking comment that's burning itself into my fucking retinas. I mean, this is the kind of shit where if I wrote this and actually hit click, if I clicked send after typing this shit and then looked at it the next day, I would immediately be looking at the business end of a shotgun because I wouldn't know what the fuck to do with myself, knowing that I let online banter get so fucking offensive that crying autistically was the only way to handle it. Get some professional help, dude. This is fucking sad.